Begin transmission.
This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Hey kids, good show, ready to go. Good to see everybody. Let's see what's going on in the chat real quick before I get everybody in. Looks like we got a lot of folks in. Gojatron came in pretty early today. He said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. Keep that tiger on his leash, Bjorn. All hail Eduardo. Yeah, Eduardo, he tends to show up from time to time, so we'll just keep watching for Eduardo, because we never know when he might show up. Lack Sivrak is here with us. Good to see you there, Lack. We got Wilhelm Toy and Hobby in the house. Hey, party people. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh, check it out. Red Velvet Rope, also known as The Ticket. He's here with us today. Good to see you, man. Mattress Maniac Mexico, our very own Rolo. Yeah, we're going to talk about some customs today. Yes. No Way Farms is here with us. Good to see you there, No Way. Going on down the line. Masters tells everybody to subscribe now. Yes, that's a good idea. Please do. World Made of Cardboard's here. Good to see you. And moving on down the line, everybody's just chatting up a storm today. Boba Hicks is here with me. Good to see you there, Boba Hicks. All right, that's got about everybody caught up. Get Largo in here real quick, and we'll do some shout outs real quick to my Patreons while that's going on. So I want to make a special thanks here to the Patreons who help support this show. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. I have Grindhead Jim Largo, Pope, Masters Maniac Mexico, Will McLaughlin. Yes, I see you there, bro. And Bjorn Jorgensen, Johnny Sorensen, Ocean Breeze, Salty. Please check out my Patreon, patreon.com/weirdfantastictoys if you want to help support the show. And coming back over here, getting me back on the screen real quick. What's going on there, Largo? Doing all right today, man?
I'm doing swell. I'm just waiting for the swelling to go down.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm doing pretty good. We're going to talk customization, and let me pull up my show notes real quick so I make sure that I'm on track. I'm working off of an outline today, folks, so the show's probably going to go straight to hell because I never do go by any kind of outline or anything. I just wing it. So, all right. So today's topic is going to be customization, and Largo and I had a pretty candid chat earlier today about that, and I'm going to share that with you first. And then we're going to have a live follow up with our guest here, General Lack Sivrak, straight live from the mothership. He will be with us. All right, so here we go. Let's watch this little video clip real quick and enjoy, folks. Hey, Largo, what's going on, man?
Hey, Bill. Another fun day. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I had something on my mind I thought maybe the viewers would like to talk about. You and I both tend to do a lot of customization. And I thought that maybe they would enjoy listening to us have a conversation about why we customize. Why do we take our figures and turn them into something that they weren't when we got them in the first place? And I can tell you from my own experience, a lot of times it's because I want the figure that I always wanted, not necessarily the figure that I was given.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of why I do it.
Well, I work in a lot of times with Origins figures or with Superpowers figures, which are difficult. The Superpower figures are very difficult to customize, whereas the Origins figures are very easy to customize because they are modular. The parts are interchangeable and easy to take, snap on and off. You, on the other hand, you work with Action Force figures.
I
Tell me a
do.
little bit about customization of those, why you do it, and how easy it's done.
Well, like Origins, they're fairly modular. I got one here. Let me grab him off the shelf.
Do you have to apply heat to get those parts apart, or do they just snap apart like the Origins figures?
I use heat just as a cautionary measure. I have a heat gun that I picked up, and it's basically just a fancy hair dryer. These figures, like with Origins, you can pop them apart at the waist. You can change out the legs, the feet, the hands, the head, all that kind of stuff. And what I do, I call it more kit bashing than customizing, because I'm basically just taking parts from different things and making
that
it look
brings up
different.
a point. What's the difference between customization, true customization, and what you call kit bashing?
Well, in my mind, the difference is whether or not you're doing some kind of a permanent modification, whether you're cutting something, painting something, varnishing, adding decals, things that are more of a permanent change. Like with this fella, he's just different parts from different figures. I could take him back apart and put it back to the original form. And so that to me is just kit bashing, when you're just taking things one from another.
You mean taking different figures, but not necessarily making permanent changes to them, but fixing them so that you can put them back the way they were originally if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And similar with Origins, the pieces are easy to pop apart and reassemble.
It's real easy to do it, and a lot of us do it. Mr. Home Arcade, I saw some different things that he did with his figures to make some custom, and they're sharp. They're really sharp. Mm-hmm. Now, what I generally tend to do with my figures is either make a whole brand new figure of something that I wished I had, such as a Red Beast Man, for instance, or buying custom heads from a friend of mine, Lee Customs, makes different custom heads, and he at one time was making the Beastly feet. So I was buying the Beastly feet to put on like Beastman or Stratos or whoever who had Beastly feet to change out the I call them stocking feet that came with the figure that didn't have toes.
Bobby socks.
Or that's what they look like they're wearing when it's supposed to be their feet, but they didn't mold the toes into it.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot of it, like you say, if there's a particular figure line you really like, and maybe the figure line was discontinued before they got to the character you like, Superpowers is probably a good example of that. We got Wonder Woman, but we never got Black Canary or Hawk Girl. There's some others I'd love to have seen them put in the line.
Superpowers are very interesting. Back in the day, in order to make a Black Canary figure, you first had to get a Wonder Woman figure. And then you had to get your Dremel tool out, or if you were really good at it, your hobby knife, and do some sculpting on that. Possibly even getting some Sculpey clay and making the sculptures of the various outfits and changing things around. It's changed a little bit in today's world with the advent of 3D printing. There are sites out there. I think there's a whole Etsy store out there where a guy 3D prints the figures. Now, what you get is a kit. You're not going to get a fully assembled figure. You're not going to get a fully painted figure. You're going to get a 3D print of all of what you need to put the figure together yourself, and then it's your job to do the painting.
Well, that gets you, way farther ahead than having to sculpt something by hand. A lot of these guys 3D printing parts now, it's a godsend if you want a custom figure of a particular actor or character. Somebody out there has probably made that head sculpt and 3D printed it for you.
I'm sure everyone has seen the figures that I've done with mainly with parts and bits that I've either bought or made myself, and we've seen your figures and the parts that you've done yourself. Have you done any actual painting, or have you actually done anything as far as building sets and stuff like that in your customization?
I have. I've done a little bit of that.
Sure.
I used to paint miniatures for war gaming, tabletop gaming. So I have some experience with like Viejo paints. You do need to put some kind of a primer underneath and a varnish over the top to keep it where you want it. The one challenge I find with articulated figures versus just, static figurines is anytime you are painting something where you're dealing with a joint, you're going to have paint rub, you're going to have chipping paint. So that's always tough. One trick I've seen some people use to get around that is to use dye instead of using paint. And you literally will dye the plastic and try to get the color you want. It's you don't always get great results, but it's worth a try.
My latest project is going to be Eric, and this is a vintage Eric figure, but I'm going to make an Origins figure of him. Now, the first thing, I don't have a head. Lee's going to make me a head, so until I get the head made, all I'm doing right now is thinking about what I'm going to use for the body, the arms, the waist.
That's Lee Customs. He's on Etsy or eBay, or how do you find him?
He's on eBay. He uses the eBay handle J Buford 63.
Okay.
And he has a YouTube channel called Lee Customs. You were talking about joints, and that brings up a pretty good point, because I've already decided, and I have a baggie here that I'm going to use WWE superstars Hollywood Hogan's body and arms for the body, and I've got some Sunman boots here that I'm going to use for his feet, because they have that cuffed top on them, even though they're not wavy like the original figure. They're just like Hercules. It's close.
Right. And, so you probably do something like I do. I have a fishing tackle box. I call it my bits box.
I have a big box full of nothing but just crap. Yeah.
I've got odds and ends and hands and feet from different figures.
And of course, all of these newer Origins figures. Well, not Origins, but the WEC versus comes with a variety of different hands. So, but usually we want to stick with an open hand on one side and a gripping hand on the other. And as you can see, my Eric has got a vest on, and this vest will go on the custom figure when I get it made. This is made by the Cape Master. The vest.
Okay. Is it cloth or felt?
It's kind of a felt material but on the inside it's kind of a velvety cloth. It reminds me of the vest that came with originally came on Prince Adam action figure vintage.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Original Remco, did he have a vest, or was it
There were two different figures. One figure had a loincloth and no vest. The other version of the figure had a vest but no loincloth.
Interesting.
My figure's going to have them both.
Right. He's wearing what, like breech skin breeches or what?
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It's just a standard leg bug that's been painted kind of this brown, or a tan. It's kind of a really, really, really like maybe mustard tan. Now the original loincloth was not made out of cloth, and I have a repro here that looks more like the original loincloth. It was more of the same color as his breeches would be.
Okay.
And I'm going to probably use this. This is made out of vinyl instead of cloth.
Now, does it attach with like a Velcro or a snap?
Yes. Well, originally I think it had some different kind of closure on the back, but this repro is using Velcro. The only problem with it is that the Velcro, he didn't put enough of it, or it's too long. And to when you fit it around the figure's waist, it kind of hangs around his hips instead of around his waist. But that's easily fixed with some more Velcro. I mean, all I just add another strip of Velcro down the side here, and then I can.
So that brings up another good point. If you're going to be a customizer or a kit basher, the craft store can be your best friend for finding those Velcro tapes and paints and anything else you need. Even
the craft section at Walmart, you'll find yourself living over there. But you were talking about painting and the problem with joints, and that I'm kind of going around the world to get to it, but I will. So what I had already decided on Hulk Hogan's upper body, so that's fine, and I'm going to paint the cuffs on the Hulk Hogan figure, and maybe even sculpt the ridges around the edge on there so that it looks like he's actually got cuffs on. See how this?
Okay.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, see that? Mm-hmm. So I may have to sculpt these ridges in there around the edge on them, because what Hulk Hogan looks like, he's got arm wraps on. I decided at one time, I said, I'm going to use Mankind's legs. That was before I got my actual figure to go by here.
This is from the wrestling figures that were made in the Motu style?
Yeah, WWE Superstars Mankind. I was going to use his legs. I got to thinking, okay, he's got brown pants on. Dark brown pants. So if I'm going to paint a mustard light color over that brown, that's going to be a really, really, really bad idea, because no matter how much you sand those joints, it's still going to be a measure of paint rub that happens, unless you just don't ever move the joint. No, we're going to move the joint. Okay, that's just the way it's going to happen.
Right.
So I changed my mind. I'm not going to use Mankind's legs after all. Mankind's safe.
That brings up a good point for folks who want to try something. You can always go from a light color to a dark color. You can't always paint a light color over a dark color. It's not going to work.
Well, if you do, you end up going to have to use several coats of paint. And if there's a joint involved, that's a bad idea, because several coats of paint are going to wear out where that joint is. So I've decided that, I guess, to use the internet vernacular, I'm going to use Naked Stratos' legs, because they're already tan.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, of course, the red boots being painted this kind of a light brown, that shouldn't be too much of an issue, because brown and red kind of go together. Talking about Hulk Hogan's body, he's got that Southern California beach bum suntan, that looks like it was painted on with some orange paint.
Technically, it probably was, but
I think that's going to pass very well as for the Native American red skin here.
Sure.
Although it probably won't match the figure exactly, but then again, if you notice, this is vintage figure, and that is not because of age. That figure's head never matched the skin tone of his body.
Okay. Yeah, that was common back in the day. They didn't always have a perfect match because of the different materials.
I think that whatever Lee does will probably match just as close enough as that as anything, and it's going to look fairly decent when I get it made. So
now, when Lee makes stuff, does he try to mold it in color, or does he paint them?
Well, it depends. If it's going to be like, say, a human head, he's going to mold that in a human skin tone, be it brown or flesh
Caucasian,
Caucasian flesh tone, whatever it's going to be. Or in the case of red Beastman, red, Skeletor, yellow or purple, and then paint it. And then that makes it much easier, because then all you got to do is paint hair and paint eyes and like that, or maybe some teeth for the mouth. And what's easy with these types of figures, like for instance, old Eric here. So he's got a headband on, and he's got black hair, and he's got teeth in his mouth, and he's got pretty much, I guess, eyebrows and little dots for eyes with the kind of a semicircle over them for his eyelid.
Right.
That's the way these figures work. Now, the female figures, on the other hand, had fully painted doll-like eyes, whereas the male figures all had just the simple eyes like him, even in the origins line. So, it's really easy to work with the male figures. Working on female figures a little bit different because now you got to start painting their eyes and everything.
And redoing these Remcos is kind of another reason why some people will customize their kit bash. It's like the Remcos have limited articulation.
Well, they had the same articulation basically as the Motu figure, vintage Motu figures. But an Origins figure is desirable with these Remco or Galaxy Warriors, Pirates of the Galaxies, Warrior Beasts. I mean, the lines go on and on and on. As long as you can get the head, you can pretty much use the bodies that you already have.
Right, because the Origins has upgraded articulation. You have different joints that work better than the originals.
Okay. That's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm also, taking play sets and upgrading them slightly. For instance, I'm sure you guys have seen the blood falls that I put on my Snake Mountain. That's a 3D piece that I bought that was 3D printed for me. I've got shields to go in Castle Grayskull that I had 3D printed on Shapeways from a store called DJ Weapons Forge. Different items like that. I'm basically doing this because I want all the shit I always wished I had, but I never got, or all the crap that I wish they would go on and make, but they're never going to make. So I've got to make this for myself if I'm going to have this stuff.
A lot of those things that are out there, whether it be Etsy or other people making, whether it's 3D printed or resin, pour molds and things, you're getting accessories and things to enhance, whether it be a figure or a playset that is already existing. You can just add some pieces on and make it your own custom.
That's correct.
That's pretty cool. I do some of that, especially with toy photography. I'm always looking for props.
Well, I figure you do a lot of backdrops. Like you probably do a lot of scouring for images of, say, walls or stores or streets or things like that to use for backdrop. Exactly. And that makes for great photography. I mean, there used to be a site called AFT Downloads, and I think he's revamping that right now. But at the time, when Phil was running a site called Action Figure Theater, which was basically a web comic using Doctor Who action figures to make a little scenes and comics. Right. He would make these intricate paper model backdrops for his photography to make that webcomic. And he knew that people like me would be like, where'd you get the backdrop from? I want the backdrop for myself. And so he made available downloads, AFT Action Figure Theater downloads available so that you could go in and you could get the files and download them and print them out. And then print them on whatever kind of paper you want. I used to use cardstock, and then you cut that out and assemble it and make the little sets.
Yeah, it's like our buddy, A World Made of Cardboard. He's
A World Made of Cardboard. He does the same thing. He designs these intricate sets, and he also offers, I guess, a way to get them to download them in a PDF file. Basically, you print them on either paper or cardstock. Cardstock, I would guess, would be preferable. You cut it out, you watch his video, you see how he puts it together, and you put it together, and make the little sets. And I think his sets work best with 3 3/4 inch figures.
Right. But again, it's that whole idea, especially if you're putting together a display or a diorama, any kind of backdrop or props that you can use that fit in scale. It just makes it look better.
It does.
A lot of these toy lines, they don't have a play set. They don't make the play set.
What would be nice is, when you pull the package, you open it up, you have this cardboard insert that you pull out. If that cardboard insert had backdrop crap on it printed, so when you take everything off of it and untwist the ties and whatever, you got a ready-made backdrop, that would be nice. I think Character Options did do that with some of their Doctor Who figure sets.
They did. Mythic Legions, the Four Horsemen, when they're doing some of their deluxe packaging, they are doing that now. Like the Headless Horseman I picked up recently, it actually has a piece you can pull out of the inside of the box and use as a backdrop, which is a really nice value add.
Now, of course, I'm going to tell the secret behind the magic. So I'm going to reveal it, folks. A lot of you guys may look at this action figure photography, and mine's not as great as Largo's by any means, but I do a little bit. But you'll look at these action figure photographs and you're like, man, that looks so real. Man, I love how that looks. Yeah, it looks really, really good on film, and it looks really, really crappy in person. So there's a difference. There's a big difference between what looks really good on a photograph or still picture or even a little video that you're making and a display.
Well, it's the same thing with movies and TV. I mean, if you were on the set of the Starship Enterprise, you'd see all the, bubble gum and baling wire that's holding everything together.
That makes a good point. Here, trivia, folks. The little I'm talking the original series. The little buttons that were on the console in front of Sulu and Chekhov.
The little jewel-looking things.
Do you know what they were made out of?
I don't know.
Jolly Ranchers. No shit.
That makes sense. I mean, it kind of looked that way. I mean, we from the camera, you just see, there's lights on there and it looks, fancy, but yeah, I imagine they put that together with just whatever scraps they could find. Exactly. They didn't have a huge budget.
It's the same thing with this. Now, admittedly, if you're going to have a piece on the shelf that's for display forever and ever, or for as long as you want it to display on the shelf and you want it to look nice, you're going to be a little more intricate. You're going to be a little more mindful of how that display looks. And that display may not photograph very well at all. But to a person looking at it, it may look, hey, that looks great, man. However, a photograph is a total different story because you can do all sorts of trickery with that, with forced perspective, with how much how much area that there is in the frame itself.
Right. Yeah, that's a good trick when you're, especially like I have some vehicles that are made for the 1/18th scale, the 3 3/4. Right. And if I put it just right in the camera angle, you can put it in the background and make it look like it works with larger figures. But it's just a trick of the
using forced perspective. That's great. And I've done some weird things before. Now, of course, you can always cheat, folks, and use GIMP and cut out something this picture and make a layer into this picture and stuff like that. Yeah, then those can look good, and I've done a little bit of that too. But
photoshopping and stuff.
The Photoshop, you want to try to make the picture look like it did when you took it in your camera, because then you're badass. You're cheating when you do all the other stuff. But I'll tell everybody a little thing that I did a while back. I made a video of one of the original He-Man comics that came with the figures. One of the mini comics, the storybooks, one of the first 4. Mm-hmm. And in this story, He-Man is inside of Castle Grayskull, and Skeletor has taken control of the castle. And as a result of taking control of the castle, he now can control these suits of armor, robots, basically, who attack He-Man. What they look like suits of armor in the comic. So I used the Explorer spacesuit that came with the Mysteries of Grayskull playset. Well, in the comic, it looked like He-Man had knocked the head off of the little suit of armor, and the head was kind of flying through the air. So I wanted to mock that, but I didn't want to just cut the head out and layer it in with Photoshop. I wanted to actually have it floating in the air behind the figure as if He-Man had just knocked his head off. So I got to thinking, what can I do to make that head float in the air like that? Well, I went to my wife's hairbrush. And if you've seen my wife, she has very long hair. It goes almost to the middle of her back. So her hairbrush is filled with the hairs to kind of pull out when she's brushing her hair. And I got one of those hairs. Can't see it on film. And I hung that helmet by that little hair. And just off camera up here, I had something to wrap it up on and tie it up here. So that little helmet was floating in the air behind the figure if He-Man had hit it.
Cool.
Just little things like that we can do to enhance our things and make new customs.
Yeah.
And painting, a lot of people are afraid to paint. Who was it? It was somebody I was talking to that said, "I'm going to ruin my figure if I paint it."
Well,
maybe
considering,
not,
yeah,
I mean, you got to start somewhere.
yeah. When I first started doing customizing stuff, you go to the bargain clearance aisle and see which figures are on clearance, and instead of looking at it as whatever's in the box, you start looking at pieces, parts. It's like, well, there's a head on this one I could use, or these hands, or maybe that body, or you start looking at the parts and seeing what you can take apart and what you might be able to use. So if you can find some, clearance aisle is a great place to find.
Well, a lot of people are afraid to paint because they think that you have to be some sort of artist to make a paint job on, say, a figure or even a backdrop or something like that. If you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons and you had to paint metal miniatures, you guys have already got a head start because it's the same thing. It's just on a bigger scale. Even my custom castle Grayskull was painted with the same ideas of using what's called dry brush effects, using what's called washes, and basically you put a base coat on it. And usually I use a very, very dark color for something or a very, very light color depending upon what's going to be the base. But say Castle Grayskull, I wanted a black base coat. So I took the whole playset apart, took everything apart, so it's just a shell, took it outside, put some newspaper down on the ground on a nice sunny day, wasn't too humid outside, and got some matte black spray paint and spray painted the whole thing matte black.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you a good base to start from.
Yeah, and let that dry. And that's the other thing. Don't start with wet paint. Let the paint dry, especially if you're doing a wash. But anyway, then in the house I came, and I got my base greenish, grayish color that I was going to use for the stone facade and everything. And I just dry brushed that on, and more dry brush in some areas, brushes in others, and it brings out all the detail.
Right, because there's a lot of detail in those old play sets. It's molded into the plastic.
It is,
but you can't see it because they don't paint it at the factory the way you paint it at home.
Yeah, so some parts of the thing, it doesn't matter because this is a stone castle, folks. Okay, you get the base idea on there, and all that black is going to be where the cracks are in the stone and stuff like that, so that it kind of blends in. And then you kind of get your lighter color on the outside. Well, it was a kind of a lime green in some of the lighter areas. Bringing out some areas. Well, I just used some yellow because the yellow across that dry brush is going to look more green than yellow because it's blending with the color behind it. Just a little dry brush here, dry brush there. And then if you want to really bring out some detail in something that's a bright color, like folds and cloth and stuff like that, you can do what's called a wash. Mm-hmm. And that's
and all these techniques, whether you're looking at color theory, dry brushing, washing, there is a ton of stuff on YouTube of people who paint, whether it be miniatures or customs. So you can find information out there and get some good tutorials if you want to experiment.
You take your darker color, the one that you're going to do the wash with, and you mix it with water. I use acrylics. Everybody should be using acrylics.
Yeah, water-based acrylic.
Mm-hmm. You just mix it with some water. You don't want it too thick. You don't want it too thin so that it just runs away and it doesn't leave any color behind. But you just paint the whole figure with it, and it looks horrible. And then you take a nice sponge or cloth and you just rub it like that. And what happens is it takes that black off of the raised areas and leaves it down in the cracks and everything. And when that dries, it'll blend and it'll look like that the folds in the cloth are kind of darker underneath the folds than they are on the outside. And people are like, well, that sounds like a mess. Well, it may be a mess, but it's going to look really, really good when you get finished. And people are going to think, wow, how did you do that? And you know how you did it. You did a wash.
Yep. Wash is a great way to do a quick and easy custom because it brings out the details on figures where the detail is molded into it. It's
right.
Just not.
You combine these techniques, whereas with washes, so you put a base coat on, and then you do a wash across that, and then after that, then you come across it with a little bit of dry brush on some of the highlight areas and bring those out. And it looks great. And then you've done a masterpiece, and it looks like that you're some sort of Vincent Van Gogh artist. When in reality, you're just using some techniques that have been used forever and ever in miniature painting, just on a larger scale.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell: is experiment, try it, have fun, and if you have an idea for a figure that you've never seen in the store but you want, you could probably make it yourself.
Absolutely. And I would love to hear in the comments if you do customization and what you have done in the past and some of your techniques.
Well, I think we pretty much covered the good base of everything for doing your customs. If some folks have some ideas out there for things that maybe we can do and show on our show, just as a show and tell kind of thing, give us some ideas in the comments, and we'll see what we can tinker with.
Sure. And maybe next time we talk about this, if people really want us to, we can show off some of the things that we've done. Maybe even I might show off some things that I've done in Sculpey clay to make custom projects. So just let us know if you enjoyed today's chat and whether you want to hear more about the things that Largo and I have been doing as far as customization.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right, guys. We'll talk with you later. Good journey. Well, that was a little chat that me and Largo had earlier today that I shared with everybody. Let's see. World made a cardboard saying that he made his own TARDIS and console room as a kid. I did the same thing, man. Same thing. And Mandalorians are fun to customize, aren't they, Largo?
Yeah.
Red Velvet Rope says, I used to use model paints. I think they were oil-based. Yeah, the old Testors paints were oil-based, and they were a mess. No Way Farms. The only customization I've done is for Warhammer 40K. No, that's not boring, man. That's we were talking about that earlier. D&D. I mean, you got to step up right there because you already know how to paint miniatures.
And, I cut my teeth doing Warhammer. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Now, don't leave, sir. I like salt. We got lots of show left. I mean, we got lots of show left. We got a guest that I'm fixing to bring on in just a second. He's been doing some customization himself. Basic backdrops from cardboard. Yeah, and War Made of Cardboard is in the chat with us today, and he is an excellent source of that. All right, Lack, I'm fixing to bring you in, bro. There you go. What's going on there, Chief today? Chief Lack Sivarak. Right. I saw you earlier today. I saw you earlier today, man. You did your show about your ships that you painted. Tell us a little bit about
my ship show. My show full of ships.
They were ship shaped.
Good?
Yeah, man. Good, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just did that a little while ago. I mean, I literally shot that a little while ago. I don't know if you can. Oh, you can still see kind of. I don't paint right here, but it happens. How are you guys?
Right.
We're getting there. Good so far.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that guy that jumped out of that 12-story building, right? Every floor they've heard him say, "So far, so good."
So far, so good, indeed.
So far,
it's
so
that
good.
stop
That's
at the end that gets you.
Rollo wants to know if Wilhelm Twain Hobby is still here. He said that he had to step away for a moment, but he is still here, but he only in spirit right now. But he will be
who
back.
of us are here? I wanted to say real quick to the chat. I don't. I'm on a very small screen, and so if I'm not paying attention to the chat. So I leave the hosts in charge of directing me to what I need to. Just want to say that. But hello to everyone in the chat. Y'all are great. All of
The
y'all.
advantage about that small screen is if somebody's on the screen annoying you, you can do this. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head.
How many movies is that from? You know? Like
I don't know. Few.
A bunch. I love that. No, it's like the Wilhelm scream of I love it.
So talk to me about some customs, man. Where did the groovy space camouflage come from? Was that just a thunder in the brain?
No, I have shared this new guy that I found. He's not new. I think his channel's called Casey Does Everything. I know I've shared it with y'all, but he does space art, right? Just like we all used to see on the guy who used to buy shit from in high school's van, right?
Yeah.
Well, like the Conan was on there, and right. So it's that art that we all are obviously familiar with, I would say. But I was looking at that one day because that's copacetic, man.
For the kids in the chat, back in the 70s, that was a huge thing. Was people would airbrush the sides of their vans with murals. I mean, pieces of artwork from science fiction, fantasy, classic art. It was groovy.
Yeah. Even like Gone with the Wind, I've seen them on the fan. You know, the Gable and what's her name? It's pretty cool stuff. You know, you have to go to hippie places, I guess now, right? And people do that on their fence, on their privacy fences.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not space, right? I remember the ones that's very much like the original Star Wars poster where Luke is this just Power of the Force 2 thing, He-Man thing.
Yeah.
And Leia's there, right? That's like that's like on every. Hell, even one of John Carter from Mars that's the same type of art in that, right? It's just
that Boris Viejo kind of style.
Is that what you call it? Yeah, but it's classic. Hello, sir.
Hey, Will.
Anyway,
hey.
How are you, young man?
I've
been familiar with it.
You got to stay up on your mic. You got to stay up on your mic because when you get back away from it, your voice muffles and we can't hear you, man.
Oh, I apologize, sir. I wanted to do a sound check. Anyway, so I've always been familiar with that style, and then just really thinking about, you know, the rebellion, and certainly with the new Andor series, right, which I've been rooting for, a Cloak and Dagger Star Wars. You know, I've been rooting for that since day one, and we're kind of getting it. But so I always thought, all right, if I'm Han Solo and I'm the greatest smuggler, why is my ship gray? Why is it even? And then you know,
your audio's coming and going there, Lack. You have a.
We might have to. Going? No, I actually am hooked up to what I have here because it's all I have. It might be an issue that we have to resolve, and I have to come back. Is it that bad? Is it continuous?
It's kind of up and down.
It's like in and out. Like you keep going up and down.
Oh, does it help maybe if I talk in a monotone?
Try using your broadcasting voice like you just.
Hello and welcome. This is Lack Sivrak. He's the coolest guy on the internet right now. Are you serious?
No.
We can fix. You know what? I can try to fix it and come back. You want to do that?
Yeah, we could give that a try if you want.
If it's that bad, yeah, talk to Wilhelm. Yes, okay. Let me resolve issues, and I'll be back with you.
You better get with engineering and have them fix your audio issues.
That's right.
Okay.
Communications.
Yeah.
Hailing communications. A little bit of technical difficulties. We'll see Lack here in just a minute. Hopefully, he can get his audio.
He's got to take a turbo lift down to the communications.
That's it. I gotta ask because Boba Hicks brought it up. Hey, Will, what you printing?
Oh, that?
Yeah.
You should ask. Oh, that is Checkpoint Alpha in 1/12 scale from my friend Bill and Largo.
Nice.
It's a 7-hour print.
That's something that we all been waiting on for you to get.
Yeah. It's gonna look.
That is going to be a multi-channel project, boys and girls. Wilhelm's going to print it. I'm going to paint it, and then on Weird Fantastic, we're going to show it off.
It's going to look just like this, only bigger.
But bigger.
Yes.
And shiny.
And it just fits on my gold plate. So I'm hoping
we had a
fingers crossed
friend earlier. We had a friend on earlier that wanted to see some super superpower stuff, and I promised that I would go and grab some of that.
Yeah.
So
I did. As a matter of fact,
to
fit with our theme, I've got, if I can get him up here. Now, this is an actual custom that was made by a fella in Argentina, whose name escapes me at the moment. It's based on a superpower's body, but this is actually a resin sculpt. It was it's not 3D printed. It was actually a poured mold, and he took the original Superman or Batman superpower's body and just made a new cast of it, and then did a custom head that's more in the Neil Adams style of Batman, which I always thought that's what they should have done with the Kenner line. So it's just a great example of what you can do when you're doing customs, and this is all hand painted. The cloth cape has been made by our friend at Cape Master. Yeah. The only thing I'm not crazy. Well, they're not cheap. He it's a premium for his work. The only downside to it is his. All
right, bye, Shatan's Hammer and World Made of Cardboard. Just wanted to say goodbye to them, sir.
Oh yeah, we'll see you later. He used magnets instead of putting true articulation, and it works kind of, sort of, but it's a little wonky. So
I kind of wonder if like posts that were like, or magnets embedded with like metal posts would be the best, because then you could like turn them a little bit, and there's a little bit of that physical grip, you know what I mean, to hold it in. But you could always remove them and change it around if you wanted to. It's that surface to surface kind of thing where they just fall right off, or if you drop them, they'll flying. The pieces go.
You got to have really strong magnets, and you do have to watch for paint rub, because that isn't this being a hand painted piece. It's a bit more fragile than what I would like, but I'm happy with it.
Bill's got something beautiful up on screen. I love that.
Oh yeah, I went to the Superpowers closet and grabbed a few items just to show off really quickly, because somebody wanted to see some Superpower stuff. This piece here was made by a fellow by the name of Pat Crawford, who had a store called Repro Bubbles that's no longer around, and Pat has disappeared. We don't know where he is, but this is a reproduction of an unproduced playset that they made for that they were going to make for Superpowers. It's the telephone booth / jail playset. Now, originally, this piece here actually would turn. Now, this one doesn't, and you could put jail on there, or telephone, and it also came with a goofy plastic lock you could put on there when it was in jail mode, but mine is permanently in telephone booth mode. When I got it, I had to paint the whole thing. Originally there was a button here that would make a gear turn to turn this, but this model here, we got a place on the top so we can turn Clark Kent around and turn him into Superman.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and the door opens. It's on a hinge inside there, and I added a little bit of extra stuff here. I had a Spider-Man playset that had this Daily Bugle paper rack in it, and I repainted it, put some more stickers on it, turned it into a Daily Planet paper rack. And if you open that sucker up, it's complete with actual newspapers inside. So.
I love it. That's great.
And then it's
those little details that really make a good diorama.
Exactly. And this is a paper craft mailbox. So it's just about the right size for them.
That looks great.
Now, No Way Farms has a good point. Will this kit allow Clark Kent to go on an excellent adventure with Bill and Ted?
You can play however you like and use your imagination in all kinds of different ways is the answer to that question. I can tell you that. And when you're doing weird and fantastic toy adventures, sometimes there are some crossovers that happen like that. I've got another case, superhero case. It's actually an old DC Comics superheroes case here, and that's kind of where I keep some of my figures that kind of overflow a little bit. Got a couple of custom figures here. I didn't do these. I actually had these commissioned for me. But the first one is a figure that I wished had been in the line but never was, and that is Catwoman.
Nice.
There she is.
And that was her DC Comics classic outfit.
Now that's that Bronze Age outfit that I love so much. Now the other one is a custom figure that was. I don't have an original of these. They cost way too much money, but the South American toy company Lily. I can't pronounce it. There's two or three of them. They did these Riddler action figures made from a Green Lantern, complete with a deformed hand where his ring is. And there was a guy that was doing repros of those, and I have here that Riddler action figure.
Right, because the Riddler was one of the super amigos that was only available outside of the U.S. Towards the end of the line. Yeah.
Correct. And of course, I don't like that figure design at all. The Riddler doesn't look as heroic as Green Lantern. He looks more like a second-rate supervillain to me. So of course, the Toy Biz version works out better in my opinion. So that's this one here is my go-to Riddler. He's just. But that's a custom figure that I had made for me, and getting on down into the case, let's see if I've got. Oh yes, down here in the bottom is where I have a really cool custom that I actually did myself. You can't have a Batcave set with Batman and Robin in it without Alfred the Butler.
Oh yeah, he's always missing from modern toy lines for some reason. Got to have Al.
And so what this is I've taken Joker action figure and popped his head off, and that is a Mr. Freeze action figure head from the
Toy Biz
version. Yeah, the you don't want to get a Mr. Freeze from the Superpowers. He's too expensive to tear up. Repaint it, take a Dremel tool to the front, sculpt a little tie. I actually modeled that tie on the Penguin's tie from the Penguin action figure. A little bit of paint, and you've got Alfred the Butler in his Bronze Age outfit with purple pants and the whole bit. I mean, he looks just like Alfred.
Yep.
And somewhere in my bits and bobs box, I've got an actual little metal tray with a tea set on it from Dollhouse Furniture that just works just fine with that. And then you talk about other action figure lines that can be repurposed. You know, I thought that this might work out maybe as a Jimmy Olsen sometime. I might have to work on that a little bit more, but that's from the Terminator, I believe.
No, yeah, was that later Kenner?
Yes, it was. Okay.
So it kind of works.
And then of course, you need Commissioner Gordon, so you can repurpose some action figures from the later line of
animated series.
Mm-hmm. You need some policemen to go with him, and so the Brooder makes these wonderful action figures of policemen. He's got handcuffs on, he's got a nightstick and a flashlight and a gun. So that's my little policeman action figure to go with him. So.
Yeah, those Brooder ones are kind of like the old Fisher Price Adventure people. You kind of got different. Those are cool.
Yeah, they're very cool, and that's
Brooder.
Just
you said
Brooder. Yes, it's spell that out, Largo. I think BRUDER. Brooder.
One of our Austrian or German friends in the chat could probably spell it for you.
I've never heard of that. That's a very cool figure. That's a very cool figure.
It's an import. You can find it on I know Amazon sells them.
What's great about the line is they have a whole line of just different stuff: firemen, policemen, garbage men, and they also have vehicles to go with them: the cop cars, garbage trucks with the working thing, which the garbage.
Yeah, expensive.
So
very
nice. If you're a 118 scale fan, they have some great stuff.
If you could find them secondhand, get them, but buying them brand new, they're really
I've never
expensive.
even heard of
like
that.
a little car with like a driver would be like $55. They're top quality, but
hey, am I still cutting in and out?
No, you sound great.
No, you're good, man. Sounding great.
Okay, okay, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I wrote that down though.
Too.
I went to write it down, and then you said expensive, and I went, oh. But I always want to look. Oh, you put me up on the thing now. Oh my goodness. Hello, gentlemen.
Well, we're at a
we're
I didn't mean
kind
to
of
interrupt,
all over
sir.
Oh no, we're kind of all over the place as far as our collecting, because we're into superpowers, we're into Motu, we're into Action Force, we're into Palatoy Action Force and Action.
Well,
Man.
customizers are like that, aren't they? No, I mean not to generalize, but that's a fairly safe. You see a lot of customizers, man. They like a lot of stuff for a lot of different reasons.
And I know with you, I mean, you're obviously from your nom de plume, you're a big Star Wars fan. But what other areas do you dip into as far as genre stuff?
Oh, as far as just collecting or customizing, well, you know what? My first real toy that was a line or whatever was Playmobil, and that is always. Like I don't know, like if there was a fire, like I would try to get my Playmobil stuff.
I was introduced to Playmobil when I was living in Scotland as a kid, and at first it was like, man, these figures are funky. They just have their own unique look. They don't look like anything else, but they had such a huge line. They had all kinds of different characters. Even back then, they had your standard village people, not the ones in the disco band, but they had. From all
and
walks
not the ones
of life.
that live in the village I'm from.
Exactly. They have
they have villages where you're at too, don't they?
Oh yes, and pueblos and all kinds of stuff. They have, but they had a great range of characters. So that was one thing Playmobil always did well. Is
that was the first thing I ever saw. I never remember. I think I saw the odd Skeletor or He-Man figure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a Skeletor. And then the only thing I ever saw, the next thing was Star Wars, Power of the Force 2, Star Wars. And so I didn't have a lot of you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of options going on. So Playmobil, which I got secondhand, I thought was wonderful because it was the first toy that wasn't homemade I ever had. When y'all were discussing earlier in your pre-recording, y'all kept saying things, and I kept thinking about different stuff, and I kept walking into my son's room. Because things that were saying started making me think of, like there's a collecting idea, and then when there's different reasons, but for some reason, and I started thinking of all these different things, and like I was looking for the first two toys I ever had that I really remember are these two little wooden toy boats that my grandfather carved out of a tree. And they're on sticks with strings, and I have them. They're not lost, but I think they're stored in a safe in a storage unit.
Sure.
I'm pretty. I just because I keep things like that, right? The good collection is not even on the shelf. It's in a different state almost, right? But it just got me nostalgic, And then I was goofing around on the screen. And I showed this is a gun that you can buy for your kid, I think, for $12 on Amazon, right?
Okay.
And I did, I was raised in Alaska, and, people talk about a holy grail item for a collection. My holy grail item is a captured 7th Cavalry rifle that was captured on the battlefield and then done by somebody in that tribe who right? And those are real things. You can see those in museums. I've seen them. I look how there's power there, right? So that's a thing. Well, then I got the thing, and Bill said,
it's a different form of customizing, but
it's customizing. There's this whole conversation. Is it art? Is it this? Well, then Bill said, oh, is that a homemade toy gun? And then I thought, no, that's not homemade. But then I went in my son's room and I got this. This is my first toy gun, and my father made this for me, And nice. So this is whatever it is, 35 years. I'm one, right? But this is 35-year-old piece of plywood that I've been keeping for. Oh, I don't. I guess because it's flat piece of plywood, it's not that hard to do. But
yep.
you
I think
stash it
most of us
somewhere.
Our first toy
you know,
gun / laser rifle / sword was whatever stick we
was
found
a
in the yard
stick.
that had the right
Yeah,
shape.
yeah, exactly.
You
Well,
always
I
found
remember
that
telling.
one.
Right. Well, I remember telling my father, "Hey, this stick ain't gonna cut it." And the stuff at the store, I do see. I don't think that's gonna cut it either. And I remember he said, "What are you playing?" I said, "I'm playing, Indian. Davy Crockett. I need a muzzle loader." So he said, "I'll make you a muzzle loader." So is customizing something like, you come from a background of making things, right? So that's a totally different idea. Then I remember telling my father, and I'm so glad I have this. Then I remember telling my father, you know what I need? Because watched Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Dean Martin and Walter Brennan as Stumpy, and Stumpy, of course, had his double-barrel shotgun. And I said, "Dad, I need a double-barrel shotgun." And he said, "Well, son, I only got plywood. I can't. How am I supposed to?" And I said, "I don't know." And then a little while later, and I painted this recently, to put on my son's wall. But he came back
the
later
amount
and
of
said,
imagination that goes into that is really awesome.
Yeah, my own. Yeah, he
I
said,
love
"Wait,
it.
I got a broomstick and I got some quarter round, and now we have a double barrel shot." And
It's amazing. Yeah.
Ain't that some shit? And then I thought about. I'm sorry. One more thing, and I will yield the floor, gentlemen, because you got me on this. I have to yield. So this was my first, because I'm a big Cowboy Indian, player, and you had to have a horse. Well, as you can see, wherever this horse came from, which is probably a priceless Fisher Price 1980 something. But when I was a kid, when I was 6 years old, I told my dad, I said, "Look, ain't nobody got no yellow horse." I said, "I need a black horse." I said, "I need a black horse, Dad." He said, "Okay, son." And 2 or 3 days later, he came back and he painted this, and like whatever that was, 1989, and it's just been all the times in my life I said, "Oh no, I better wrap this up and stick this in here."
So even back in the day, you were the original dark horse.
I don't know about that. There's many before me. I learned from somewhere. But I got to thinking about that. I said, "Look, that's a custom toy my dad made." And my dad is not anything like, would never. I mean, that's not even you don't even know what that means. But look, he obviously is.
Yeah.
And so I thought all that shit, pardon my language, no disrespect, but I thought all of that when I was listening to y'all's pre-recorded thing, and I lived this whole life over again. That's me and my dad.
That's awesome, man. And those kind of things have much more connection.
That is cool.
And are much more valuable because have that. It's not just a nostalgia for the playtime; it's the nostalgia for the connection with your father and the fact that he cared enough to do that kind of stuff.
And I got that out of my son's room, which
so
even made me go, "Oh shit!" Yeah. I yield the floor, gentlemen.
Well, Lack, those are amazing, amazing toys. I love them. They're better than anything you could have bought at a store. And they've lasted.
I made this. This is not nostalgic. I made this. Oh, hold on, I'm using it the wrong way. I made this for my son to put on the wall next to his rifle.
That's great. The fact that you have them, the fact that your son has them, and that they've lived on to another generation. I mean, it's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are
no, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
I love that.
It kind of ties in with that thing we talked about in previous episodes where people talk about how do you get your. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to show this. What if you? I know my signal's getting really weak here. But what if you don't have a 3D printer? What if you're not Wilhelm Toy and Hobby with lots of spending money to go buy one? Well, Sculpey Clay's cheap. Ooh. And here we have, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the storybook, but there's a storybook for Masters Universe where a well is actually situated right outside of Castle Grayskull, and this is that well, and it features in one of my videos in which I made of that. Awesome. And so I made this thing entirely of little bits and bobs, of popsicle sticks and dowels that I bought from the craft store, beads, some string, and I sculpted the bottom piece, each brick separately out of Sculpey clay. And then I made this contraption here so that you can actually lower the bucket down into the well.
Very nice.
And the bucket is a dollhouse bucket that I bought from Hobby Lobby, but and that's kind of something that you can do to make a little custom piece.
You're an artist, Bill.
I appreciate that. I
no,
try.
It's true. No, it's true.
I try. But anyway,
you know, that's always people. You were talking about toy photography and all different stuff, and like, you know, there was a time when photography didn't exist, and artists. There was a time when artists said, people who painted on oil, they said, well, that's not art. You're just taking a picture of something real. You know, that was a conversation. That's completely foreign to us. And then the photography people who were in the dark room had a problem with digital people. And it's like this weird evolution that I'm a manual machinist. I made fun of CNC machinists. What did I have to do? I had to go to school to learn how to be a CNC machinist.
You know, that's what I do for a living. I'm a CNC
Is
machine
it?
operator. Yes, sir.
Are you really, Bill?
Yes, sir.
My God, man. I had to learn that. I'm a manual machinist. We will talk shop. But like you got a Bridgeport, I will come make you some stuff. You know, you got a LeBron. But at CNC, I had to learn, you know, and like, it's because I'm opposed. That's, you know what I mean? It's my own fault. I'm not blaming anybody. But when I went to school, when that first started, we were taught to say, oh, CNC guys, they can't pick up you know, and like that was really dumb, right? That's like you're a senior and you're picking on it just makes no sense. It's really not cool.
Black, didn't you have a giant CNC machine like delivered to your house and you moved it in on your own?
That is a CNC laser. Yes, that is a CO2. Right. It is a CNC, which is the beautiful thing about it. Once you kind of learn, like, I made this, which I'm not happy with it. This is like version, I don't even know what, 5. But this is a frame. This is a picture of my grandfather during the war, and he flew and I made this frame. You know, and like I said, it's the same version, whatever, but it's like
and you got his name down there too. That's awesome.
I got his name down there. He's an ace.
That is great. Now, is that something that you bought for? Is that for your work or is that for?
Yeah. I hope it to be more work related as the future pans out. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And let me address Ted Milik here in the chat.
Sir.
I like this AI art crap. It just steals other people's art off the internet and combines it together. Let's use a different word than steal, because remember, folks, if you steal from enough different places, it's not stealing anymore. It's called research.
There's also I learned I used to engrave, which I've been out of practice for a while, and I would like to. There's, you know how your life. But I used to engrave, and there was a big, you know, somebody said, you can do this. And I said, well, first of all, I couldn't look at Bill's face and draw it. I said, I'm not an artist. They said, no, that's not how it works. So I learned how to do it. Well, then the issue comes up. They said, well, somebody says, I want the Mona Lisa. I want the Coca-Cola emblem engraved on my firearm. Well, I go to a teacher and I say, what's the deal with all this trademark? She says, if you change anything by 20%, this is United States trademark law, which is the only country we're going to get sued in, right? So she said, if you change it by 20%, you're not doing that. You're not infringing on their trademark. And she said, the emblem is not made of anything. She said, as soon as you cut it in steel, the Mona Lisa is painted on oil and canvas. If you cut that in steel, that's 20%. If you make a rendering out of cheese and make it a skull, that's 20%. She said, you will never have that problem. And anybody, including like the dreaded companies,
render.
You know, cheese rendering, cheese with sculpture. Well, but sorry, hold on, I don't want to lose. Are we still good?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, hello. But anyway, so I learned that in a completely unrelated field of stuff, and now the beautiful thing I'm learning now is all these things I'm bringing together in like a toy kind of a community, you know, and I think that's amazing. That's when I start saying I used to say, just like Bill said, Oh, I'm scared to paint a figure. I'm scared of, pardon me. Sorry. But I used to have a job where I airbrushed camouflage on things. And I used stencils, and it was like what the customer wanted and stuff. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Why am I not doing that? Like, why is a toy different? Well, you just have this idea that you don't paint a toy, I think, right? But when you buy a thing that's unpainted, it's supposed to be painted, you paint it. But when you buy this product, I guess, it's like Sid in Toy Story. That set back customizing and kit bashing years. That's the most. That's why. Right. That's why Hasbro's the way Hasbro is, or whatever people want to complain about. They go, "How come there's no imagination? There's no. It's not like the old days." I said, because Sid is a bad guy. Right. That's why. But the Erector set Spire with the head on it was cool. Was the coolest thing.
That's a cool thing when you start looking at things through the lens of customizing. Suddenly you have tools at your disposal you don't even think about, like the 3D printers and CNC machines and all the different things that wouldn't normally have an application for toy collecting.
It's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. Have you seen the scanners on Amazon? I'm not advertising for anybody, but you can buy a scanner that goes anywhere from, let's say, $300 to $1,000, and probably you can. Somewhere other than Amazon, you can go way bigger, right? But it's a handheld scanner. It looks like what they do at the store. To beep, beep. And you scan your item, and you plug it right into your 3D modeling software, which should be Fusion 360, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, by this day and age. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you're not learning that, AutoCAD is not. We don't need that. We don't need that. It's just not, the world's passing us by. But you can scan my face, your face, whatever, and you can plug it right into your software and splice it or slice it, and you can send it right to your CNC machine, whether it's a laser, which you can happen to use in your house, right? Or you can send it to your CNC. You can write a program, and Bill can mill out of pocket, right? And we have a mold. Whatever you want to do, it's doable. The future is now. It's just so amazing. Do you know that there's a company trying to build a hotel in space? Like, it's crazy.
Sounds to me like between me and you, like we could make these $100,000, $1 million molds for the toy companies and make.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. Everybody says, "Well, the molds." I said, "Do you know what a hunk of steel or aluminum costs?" Because here's the other thing, right? I now know what a plastic injecting molding machine is, right? I didn't know what that was, but now I do know what that is, right? And I know what it requires, and I know, you know what I mean? And I'm going, I could literally make that. I could walk up to the college and say, "Hey, Professor so-and-so, dig this, man. Can I do this?" He'll go, "Black, yeah, of course. Come in on Thursday. Nobody's using that machine. You got the material?" Say, "Yeah, I'll have it by Thursday." You know what I mean? Like, that's really, because what machinists and all these guys, like, you want to talk about, like, people you can talk to? I don't know how to say it, but, like, you want to talk about, like, a class of blue, like, come on, man, you can't talk to the machinists? That's baloney.
Right.
Will the machinists not do your shit for you because you're trying to pay them $17 an hour or some ridiculous thing? Maybe that's what Hasbro's problem is. I don't know. Maybe it's deeper. I worked for a place I went in and I applied for two different positions. One was, what do they call it? CNC operator, whatever, the high one. Because I could say I graduated, what do they call it? Something cum laude. I don't even know what that meant, but my professor said, "Make sure you tell him this." I said, "Oh, okay." So I put in for that job, and then I put in for basically a gunsmith, but still. And at the end of the day, the guy who runs gunsmithing, who does custom, because I do that too, I will stone that until it is perfect, right? Do you know a piece of paper is 3/1000 thick? He knows that. Yeah. Sheet of notebook paper is 3/1000. He knows that. So the machinist guy is like, "Well," I say, what's it worth?" He says, "Oh, we start at $16.50. I took my stuff and I went back downstairs to the gunsmith guy. I said, "Hey, what same company downstairs." I said, "What are you starting here at?" He said, $21. I said, "Hey, where's my desk?" I said, "Where's my desk?" And I'm thinking, like, what are they trying to do to this industry? Like, did they even know? Obviously, they don't know. And I'm not the greatest. I have a friend, Pat, who is building his own satellite. And he has license for rockets. He's started from the ground. This man is and he writes my programs now. I sit around and go, now, wait a minute. I need to plunge, and I'm sitting here trying to write the program. But like, if I'm on the Bridgeport and I'm sitting there and I go, yeah, baby. Right. I don't know. I feel like I'm an artist more than but I go to Pat and I say, I need this to be made. And he says, yeah, man. And he's one of these weird, like, and I get a program from him.
When you're bilingual in that you can speak engineering and you can speak artist, then something magic can happen.
And you know what it takes when you tell Bill, hey, man, or if Bill says, hey, man, these parts aren't right, and then your supervisor comes by who knows nothing about nothing. And he says, no, we got to get the numbers out. And it says, these numbers will get out today, but in a week.
That's the point, I think, is the numbers. And that's why these people are undervalued. That's why, I'm just saying, like, with technology today, do you think they could tackle the problem of making a washing machine for the home that would last forever?
Absolutely, but where's the money in that?
Well, they could, but then they couldn't enough washing machines, so they make pieces of crap that tear up.
That's why.
Right. So also, there's the global interest of there's a global interest of keeping people in business who, you know what I mean? They gotta have something to do over there because they can't. Right, like in Malaysia or wherever, where all of our those people can't go back to the jungle, right? Because now they know too much about this world. And now they're going to go back and talk to the earth and they're going to say, hey, wait a minute. Right? Like, why is every government trying to get you out of the mountains? I just say, I don't want to. But it's a much bigger problem. It's a much bigger problem than any of us even.
Problem. Yeah.
But you can't tell.
Make things that are infinitely repairable or replaceable.
We can do some. Look at what Elon Musk is doing.
Yeah. They won't do that because it's not profitable.
Look at what.
Right.
Limits their amount to profit.
Right.
Henry Ford made a the customizing stuff. So
and that's part of it too. Outside of the box
rabbit
thinking.
Holes and tangents.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, but it's all that. It comes from that same spirit.
So you're saying that doing the tooling in aluminum. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just said it comes from some spirit.
It's possible to do even as just
Messiah.
a customizer.
Yeah.
Am I losing my signal here, guys?
Am I losing it?
Good, you're good. Y'all just talking over each other a little bit.
I apologize.
That's okay. It's something we got to get used to in this kind of format. There's a tiny bit of latency in here, and sometimes when somebody pauses,
sorry guys, my signal.
We try to jump in, and they don't realize that we've jumped in until they get back to talking again.
Lack gets very excited.
Oh, I can tell.
So I'm very.
Look, I love having passion. Yeah, I love having passion on this show. It really builds the audience because they love to see our passion.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, it's what that's the human. I mean, that's what separates us from the animals, right? That kind of like
exactly.
Holy smokes! I mean, it's crazy.
Largo's spinning over there. I think Largo's internet just took a dump. Hopefully he'll pop back in here in just a second.
Sure.
Well, we've got a little. Yeah, he just popped out. Maybe Largo will be back in just a few minutes. What you got there, Lack?
Well, I got a lot of stuff handy. Do you want to just look at stuff for a second, or what do you want? Yeah, I got some coffee real quick because I'm not vain enough to turn the camera off. I'm kidding.
Pull you over here if I can and get you big. And let you show off some stuff.
Dig this when you and Mr. Largo were speaking, and you're talking about behind the toys now, and having a playset behind it. It's hard to see this in the reflection, but this is the back of a Micro Galaxy Squadron Falcon. This thing you saw, or that I'll show you in detail in a minute. But that's the back of it, right? And I saw that. And it took me a while because I was thinking about what am I doing? I saw that, and I made this little display, which I don't think is finished. But I'm a big display guy. I've noticed that when I was a kid, I wanted to be the guy who worked at the museum, who put everything in order. Which is not necessary. and see, this is obviously he's not glued in or anything, but this was made for General.
But how many times have you marveled at just the setup, the case, the display of it? Even
and
more
sometimes
so
it's
than
dioramas.
It's just the whole the way they.
Yes, there's and the person does it where you come in and you naturally flow, and they all flow the same direction, and it's not necessarily the direction traffic is, by the way, for certain natural reasons, not unnatural reasons. Anyway, you were discussing the backs of toys, and that was the back of a toy that I saw recently that I went, oh, wow, that's something right there.
Yeah.
And I am obviously I'm a fan of Antok Merrick for the idea of him, if that makes sense, because I showed you my grandfather earlier who flew the P-38. And so when I saw Antok, I thought of that photo, and so I made him a shoulder holster.
Awesome.
out of deer leather that my grandfather shot, oddly enough.
I love that.
And then,
that is great.
And then I made him a flight computer, which, if anybody's familiar with actual World War II aviation, and I have my grandfather's flight computer in storage unit. I have it. It's the most amazing thing, and the paper's on it, and but so I made that for the general here, and then that's why I put him in that display. You were saying about the museum, there's dioramas that are all different scales, but there's also stuff like bones, right? Or captured battlefield firearm, whatever it might be, right? And so now that's not really any resemblance of what we do as action figure, right? Because I'm just saying there's a connection there, but I think most people don't make it, right? 3 mastodon teeth is done by the same artist as who did this amazing diorama. Like, he might have had a couple people help him come in and mix glue or whatever, but yes.
Now, I kind of wanted to, for those of us who aren't super familiar with the Star Wars Cantina critters.
Oh yeah.
Your namesake.
I
always thought he was just a wolf man. But tell me, what is a Shistavian? Am I saying that right?
Shavasinian. I think it's Shavasinian, but exactly. But you know what? As part of the free and independent Confederacy of Systems, I'm cool with you saying it. However, because I know you don't know, and I know you're not trying to offend me, and that's why. You dig what I'm saying?
I'm digging it.
Yeah. So that's.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Amen, brother. Bless you, man. Bless you, man. The Lax Sivrak in the Cantina that was originally called Hyena Man.
Okay.
And he's the first one. No, he's the one that you see talking to the worm, Dice Ibogan, the eel-looking thing with the teeth, right? And that's his lover, by the way. That's his lover. Dude. Yeah. How'd you like to watch that video? Wow. Who even knows? How does that work? Very carefully. Like 2 porcupines, very carefully. Anyway, but then there's another wolfman that people very much confuse with Lack, and his name is Acoles Scholler or something. I'm totally getting that wrong. But he's the gray one who's drinking, who goes, ah. That's a totally different wolfman. And that is not the same.
And all those cats that were in the Cantina, I mean, that's another idea of customizing on a grand scale. I mean, they're coming up saying, beautiful. We need aliens. We need a variety of aliens. We need to put them in the scene. And they're taking parts of different costumes. They even took some stuff from Doctor Who for some of that.
Yeah, and they asked a bunch of different people, too. Somebody was smart enough to say, okay, well, we need this to look different. Like that's why I don't know if y'all are familiar with Sky Bottom Station, but like he's on an intergalactic trade route that trades back and forth, and like that's one of the reasons why their stuff looks so real, because they do have. Yeah, what do you think of that?
That is awesome. That's Billy Jack, isn't it?
Yep, that is Billy Jack. Yep.
Now you have to get the right angle. I grabbed this one. I was watching your pre-record, your 30-minute thing in the beginning, and you were talking about if it's on your shelf, you might take a little extra time on it. And this, not that I'm argumentative, because I totally agree with you, but this I was looking around, And my good friend Blue Sasquatch sent me this. This is that Wolverine figure.
Yeah.
And I know that's why he sent it to me. I know it is because
That's hilarious.
I'm a fan, but who gives a shit about Wolverine, right? I mean, I'm a fan. Don't get me wrong.
It's too bad you don't have some bare feet, because when Billy Jack got ready to put his foot up,
he took his
head, he always took his boots off first.
But we can take these off. I just haven't got there.
Okay.
But so anyway, this is an awful hat, right? This is a piece of foam ball that I found. I was just looking around, and I said, "Now wait a minute," because I get mad at myself.
I think it looks good, Black. It's just the
right. So this is my right. But now this was my own experiment.
His head better, but I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But this was my own experiment in
customs are always
being okay
evolution.
with something. Right. But I told myself, because you were talking about working on it more, and I do that with a lot of stuff. This was my first exercise in the Jim Henson trick photography. If this is on a shelf and this head is down and you're not looking at this perspective and this and that, you go, oh my God, that's Billy Jack. That's so cool, right? And so we used to call that the 3-foot rule in woodworking and stuff like that. Y'all know that rule, right? It's a 3-foot rule. And I said, now wait a minute. Why am I so? I said, we need a Billy Jack, and we need it now, and let's just do that. Because the hardest thing, right? You're your own worst critic. And you're constantly, like you said, it's always evolving. I'm trying to teach myself to be cool with stuff. It's very liberating.
As a quick interjection there, Lack.
Yes, sir.
When we're doing art, something that non-artists need to understand about an artist never completes his work. He abandons it at some point or another, because you're never actually done.
Right.
All of this stuff that you see that I have on display is stuff that I started, and I got to a certain point and I just quit working on it. And
you got to give up the ghost.
I may go back and finish. Blue Harvest Toys just hopped in. Hey, what's going on?
Oh, hello, Mark. I found it. Look, I'm going to do a planet.
Cool. I
mean, all of this stuff, and we could go on. We could go on forever about.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm going to show you this, and then you can take me off the screen unless you have any questions. But I carved this. When I was 6.
Oh wow! No wonder you're
well done. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my grandfather, who was in that photo, which is why I carved that. I can't remember what the whole deal was, but I wanted to give this to him. And my father suggested, he said, what if we made that piece of wood into the lid of a box? I said, I can't make a box. He said, I got you, son.
Cool.
You're what they call a natural.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But and then of course all my grandfather's very cool. And then take me off the big screen, but this is a handmade. That's the real deal.
That is a cool patch.
That's amazing.
Hand-painted leather. Amazing. Yeah. But anyway, so I just customizing comes we've all had to put baling wire on something. We've all had to make an axle out of a spruce tree. And so when you look at a figure and you go, you know what, that ain't right. It ain't like my father. He said, oh, my boy needs he wants a stallion, a black shiny stallion, like Zorro or whoever. And it was no big deal. And so what a beautiful thing. And then Saturday Night Fever Lack.
Nice.
Okay. I yield the floor.
I love it.
You guys get me very excited.
I know.
As artists, you can't and look at your
I love the excitement on the show, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And Blue Harvest says that now that you're shaving, you look like a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Well, my first wife made me grow facial hair because she was 20 years older than me. And then I never really gave it. And then I said, "Wow, I look real sexy like Waylon Jennings," and I didn't give it up.
But you cut yourself, didn't you? That Bowie knife is pretty razor sharp. You
I have a place I always cut myself. Do y'all, as men, do y'all have that? Well, Largo, you're the only one that obviously. But you have the place where something folds wrong. Yeah, your skin. Something's wrong with your skin there. Yeah. That's why you get other people to. That's why our grandfathers went to barbers
Uh-oh.
Because it ain't easy.
Something's
I do a
happening to
straight
Blue
razor
Harvest
too.
Toys.
I know he's well, he loves me. He loves me. He just did his first custom. Now he will repair. He's repaired toys, and I know he has other. But he just did a video, and he said this is my first custom, and then he said I have a feeling like I've never it's a different thing, and I've watched that video multiple times because it makes me around. He says you can just see his face. It reminds. I say I know my face looked like that when I went down Christmas morning at my grandparents in 1990. I don't know why, but I just go, wow, that's awesome.
Indeed.
But he's all on board the custom thing, and he's been in this game for 50 years, right?
Well, I just put a link in the chat if you want to go over there and take a look at that custom from Blue Harvest Toys. Check it out.
You saw? I think it's his episode 3. Is it episode 3?
Yeah, and that brings in another part of what we do is becoming customizers. Sometimes it starts with repairing something that's broken or restoring something that was an heirloom, or maybe you found it at a flea market or a garage sale and you're like, I can bring this back to life. We have the technology. We can rebuild.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many great toys that have been well loved and played with that just need some pieces, parts to put it back together, and then it's part of somebody else's collection.
It's funny you mentioned that. Not to take recently, our good buddy Super John had a live. This was his Sunday live before his birthday, I believe. Because Lack don't even know what day it is hardly, you guys. I'm on what they call native time. So, but I was in the chat and he was discussing. We had talked about, I don't know, the customs went that way, and John, he has said, he said he doesn't even want to fix a toy, right? He doesn't even want to make the arm tight because now it's not original. And I totally understand that as somebody who deals in antique firearms, or even I have a few of my antique furniture from my grandmother. Just different, it's very small stuff that now I'm responsible for, which is crazy. But I understand that. And in the chat, I asked him about, hey, what if you found a 57 Chevy in your grandpa, and all of a sudden he said it was so amazing. I almost cried. But he said, wow, Lack, yeah, I would totally hot rod or restore it. And he said, I never thought of it like that. Wow. And you know what? I thought that is why we're humans right there. Because we're just two guys talking. Yeah, it's not there's no, and he's totally right, and I'm totally wrong, and I'm totally right, and he's totally wrong, because none of it make nothing. But he, I don't know, it was just crazy. It was one of the proudest moments of this past month, and because I totally understand why he says that. I hate to talk about firearms all the time, but when somebody brings their grandfather's 22 that they love dearly and they say, I want to fix this and restore it, the first thing you have to tell them after your research, you say, this is a $17 Sears and Roebuck, gun. Right. And I can make this the coolest thing ever. I will gold plate it. But do you want to spend? How much money do you want to spend on this? Or we can preserve it like it is, and you can go hang it on the fireplace and tell everybody how it's your grandfather's cool ass gun. And then people usually say, "Oh, well, I don't want to shoot it. I don't want to do that." I said, "Okay, well then, dig it, man. Let's do this.
Leave it as is. Yeah.
Yeah, let's dig this and let's make a really cool display for it and go hang it in your house." And some people say, "No, man, I want my grandfather's face inlaid in gold in this thing, and I want it restocked in Turkish walnut." And I go, "Yeah, this guy's a hot rodder. Dig it, man. Let's do it." Because my dad is also like a car guy, and that's the thing. Is it a frame-off restoration, or are we hot rodding it, or what are we doing, boys? Because we can play all these games, and they're all fun. They're all fun games.
Oh, yeah. And customizing can definitely be a rabbit hole that can get very expensive, because then you're buying multiples of certain figures, and you're buying pieces just to use this bit or that bit.
Yeah.
So, you can build a very expensive figure to get exactly what you want, because you've had to amass so many different pieces to make it how you want.
Yes, sir. And then at what point do you say, you know what? How did these guys and if a room full of Chinese guys can do this, I think I can do this. And you look at somebody like the Craftsman. The Craftsman was one of the first people that started me on customs. He has a beautiful video about MC Hammerhead Hunter for bounties. I don't know if y'all have seen that video, but he made this. No. He made this custom. I wish I had it on me. I'm so sorry. I should have thought about this. He took a Bosk, a vintage Bosk, like 70s vintage Bosk, or whatever that would be, 84, I guess. My bad. And a Hammerhead, and he made the pilot a Hammerhead, right? And so and then I watched that video and I went, and he does it like an instructional video, but it's not meant to be, I don't think, but he does it like that. And I watched it the first time and I said, shit, I got a Bosk, I got a Hammerhead. Mm-hmm. I can do that. Because like at very least, I'm trainable. You know, I mean, like a monkey's, you know, like we can teach the monkey. I can do that. He just showed me how to do it. And that was the first thing I ever did.
Hang on. No Way Farms brings up a good point. MC Hammerhead would be better with a laser. Everything is better with a laser.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Laser sharks. Yeah. Just remember that, folks. Laser sharks.
You know what's weird, though? When the days of lasers come and they have all the force fields to stop energy lasers, it don't stop like a 18th
kinetic
century.
Energy.
Yeah, it don't stop an 18th century 650 grains. Or even a rock, right? What's that? They're like, roll it in there slow. I'm like,
look here, Mr. Home Arcade's in. He says, customizing makes toy collecting that much more fun, in my opinion. Yeah. I've never planned on making my own figures, but once I started, it's hard to stop. Absolutely. You've got the bug, Mr. Home Arcade, and I've seen your work, and it is outstanding, my friend.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about the idea of customizing? What about people who collect custom stuff that don't make it? Like Mighty Java's collection. Right? Like he collects, it's art, right? It's art.
Sure.
Like you go to an Etsy store and you say, you know, like that's what we've talked about. Me and Mark have talked about that. Is it a mass-produced thing that everyone can buy? You know, because then we get into what if people are selling it? Oh, well, now it's not this and it's not that. Well, is it art or is it a mass-produced? Is the person trying to make 1,000 of them look identical, just like a company, right? Or did Largo say, "Hey man, I need like a purple camouflage thing," right? I think that's the difference. And
I need a one-eyed, one-horned flying purple
peeperoo. Exactly. I just always like to bring it back into art, you know, because I think I never thought of it like that. That's a new concept to me. You know, it's not. What if I'm not trying to make a so and so?
Sure.
All right, guys. I want to stop you guys because we can talk customs for like hours on end. But what I wanted to cover right quick before today's show's over and get a chance to talk about this amongst ourselves as well. Recently, and I'm going to try to pronounce this right. Don't jump on me there, Rolo. But over in Germany, I think it's where this is at the Spielwarenmesse Toy Fair has been going on this weekend, and we've gotten some news from over there about some different Motu items that have been displayed over there, and a lot of people might be interested in talking about those.
Right. The fella from the Go Figure channel, I think, is over there live. He was talking about it earlier.
Absolutely, and if I can, let's see if I can bit. He has he's seen the Snake Mountain, and it says I'm reading right off the Toy Habits page here, toyhabits.com site. Jay is his name. He got to touch and play with the Snake Mountain. He said that they have updated the colors so that it has the colors that match the vintage release now. It doesn't look all pink like it did in that original video that we saw from Pixel Dan. The bridge, he says, looks cool. And his mind was blown about the chains, which were famous for breaking on the original model. He said this time they've made them out of some super rubbery material, and he thought that was a brilliant choice. Personally, I don't think that was a brilliant choice. I think they should have done what I've done with mine and made them out of plastic chains, actual chains, little plastic actual chain. Mm-hmm. But he also says the snake is perfect and it's bigger. Now it was already big to begin with on that prototype, but now it's even bigger. It has a mechanical aspect to it, and it's positioned in the perfect position, he says. So I can't wait to see some pictures of that when it actually comes out. And of course, the gateway has a little mountain topper on it, so that it looks like it comes up to a point of a spire. Of course, there's no functioning mic in it, but we already knew that. And there's also a new ledge on there to position figures on, so that's interesting, an interesting aspect of
So
the
it's an
new.
upgrade in a lot of ways.
Well, and it looks like it's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger than the vintage model. The vintage model I've got on my desk over here. If I can get a wide angle shot of it real quick, so you guys can see what the actual vintage toy looked like. It's back there in the background, and as you can see, it takes up just about the whole back side of the table space back there in the back. So, and of course, it's not nearly as tall as Grayskull, except for maybe the topper over there by the snake, the gateway. But so this new model is going to be even bigger. So that is
Right.
it's going to be
And
interesting to see.
as you've pointed out before, Bill, the original Snake Mountain, all the play action was on the outside. With this new one, they've got play features on both sides, right?
That's correct. There's a cage in there that can be moved to either side, so you can capture the figures under the trap door at the gateway, or you can move it on the other side and have a jail cell. And I think there's a bone thrown in there, and there may be an action feature where it turns and the character drops down into the cage. That's what it looked like to me, anyway. For speculation is rampant. Take this all with a grain of salt, but it comes with a weapons rack with weapons, so that it has some extra stuff inside of it. So I can't wait for this thing to come out. There's going to be a little pool, and it's going to have a peg on it, so you can break your figure in half at the waist like they do, and you can plug him into the little peg, so he looks like he's sinking into the pool, of slime or whatever. But and then the other thing that everyone has been excited about is the news that the new Motu Point Dread set is coming out, and Jay also broke down the Motu Origins Point Dread and Talon Fighter set. The canopy on the actual Talon Fighter does have a window in it. It's tinted, and it's made of some kind of a dark gray, I guess, translucent plastic. The controls inside of the ship are similar to that of the Wind Raider, and it does seat two figures. Something that I found very interesting was where the blue satellite dish is. You can put the blue satellite dish on, or you can take an alternative attachment, which is silver. And this is a large attachment that takes up almost the whole top half of the Point Dread. And Point Dread will attach to the top of our Castle Grayskull via pegs, and it also has an additional peg hole in it. And he confirms that Castle Grayskull will be able to handle both Point Dread and the Wind Raider on top of it. So that's very, very interesting. And something that I thought I might share with everyone. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but originally, I don't think Point Dread was meant to be a good guy play set or whatever. It was meant to be Skeletor's hideout before there was a Snake Mountain. And I'll read this print here to you. Point Dread is a craggy peak emerging from the Eternian Ocean. It is an extinct volcano with a tunnel leading down to a fantastic ruined Atlantis-like city hidden beneath the ocean floor. Inside Point Dread, Skeletor keeps all the treasure he has plundered from 1,000 worlds. There are also mines and construction sites waiting for the slaves Skeletor plans to take once he has seized control of Eternia. But at the heart of Point Dread is the Great Council Chamber, where Skeletor summons the sinister masters of the universe. Here, Skeletor sits on a raised platform above the round table where he has gathered the likes of, and it goes on, and see if I can find the rest of that that speech
So this
here.
was the
It
this was the
genders off there.
pre-filmation idea of what Point Dread might have been.
This was the original idea that the toy makers were having before they actually produced any of this stuff. They came up with all these ideas, and this idea of Point Dread, uh, it evolved into what we have as Point Dread today. But originally, it was going to be Skeletor's hideaway, and there's actually one of the golden books where it is Skeletor's hideaway in that storybook. So it's an interesting thing to think about. But I thought I would share that with you guys real quick before today's stream ends. And so just, I mean, are we excited about this? I'm kind of ambivalent at this point because I'm broke and I've spent all my money, and I've got a vintage Snake Mountain, vintage Point Dread play sets that are complete, have been restored to a certain point. I'm going to work on that Snake Mountain probably forever, and one day it may look as good as Castle Grayskull. I don't know, but you know, I'll admit it. If I see Snake Mountain, say in Target, I'll probably pull out the old credit card and buy the thing. But I don't know if I'm going to buy it online or anything like that. Not with what I have.
I'm like that. You got to look at it to really convince. I'm excited about anything that I don't hardly use anything anymore for what it's intended for.
Well,
so
exactly.
I'm excited about anything that, you know, and play sets. I think there's a real lack of cool play sets, you know.
There are, and I find it very interesting that we're going to get not one but 2 play sets this year. Yeah. And I was very concerned about Point Dread never being released before the line is over. Now, I'm not saying anything about the line being over, but we have to accept reality. Nothing lasts forever, and we don't know how long this line is going to last, and we don't know how long it's going to be available in retail. I think that eventually it's all going to move to online sales, and what we see in the toy section of, say, Walmart or Target is going to be more geared towards the younger children.
Right, but Point Dread was a glaring omission. It was something that needed to be in the line. I'm glad they finally announced it because
absolutely.
It's iconic.
I mean, it is, and the actual Point Dread playset came out before Snake Mountain did, and of course, up here right now, it's all pre-production work. I want to do a video about Snake Mountain itself and the toy, and just stay tuned, folks. At some point or another, I'll probably drop that video probably around the time that the actual new toy is released. But I'm going to work on that, folks.
You know, it makes me wonder, Bill, when you look at some of the pre-production stuff back when Mattel and Hasbro actually had original ideas and were coming up with original storylines instead of just recycling stuff, how many of those guys who were working on those design teams customized their stuff when they were kids?
I would imagine they probably all did at some point because they were sculptors. I mean,
you think you'd want to hire those people anyway if it was your company, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything that they did, they had to come up with out of nothing, basically. I mean, they may have had a starting point. For instance, the Talon Fighter, we can see in a big gym. I think it was the space spy ship. Kind of resembles that you know, but they would see this one toy and they would bring it into the line in a different format. But you can see that a lot.
The boys over at Palatoy were famous for that, where they would take, you know, things from different toy lines and figure out how they could repurpose it and
pre-existing
make it work.
Stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, look at the Kenner Lost Wave, which is one of my favorite things. You know, hey Duffman, how are you, brother? You know, the Kenner Lost Wave of whatever year. That's one of my favorite things, and that's all, you know, kit bashing, I guess you would call it, right? But those guys are definitely artists, and they had vision, and they're outside the box thinking, and then it's just amazing. You know, it's amazing. Those, you know, Sid was not the bad guy.
Yeah.
No.
And now we watch stuff. We watch stuff now. Every time Blue Harvest does one of those Hasbro streams, the only thing I have to say is now wait a minute. Why would you hire these people? Like what are these people here doing? They're trying to tell you that they're your friends and they're like you and all this kind of stuff, but they're hired to be that face to make you think that. I'm just saying, and then they tell people like us about tooling costs.
Mm.
And it's like we all know what skunk smells like, don't we? I'm from Alaska. We don't even have skunks, but I know. I go, oh, that's fishy. That's skunky, right?
Well, unfortunately, it seems that most of the big toy companies these days are just recycling old ideas. There's very few innovators. There's some out there. And then you get, your guys like my personal favorite, Bobby Valla, who said, no. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to look at what came before, and I'm going to take it in a different direction. And so it can happen. But it's funny how the guys who are the most creative tend to get kicked out of the big companies, but then they start their own, and then the magic happens.
Right. I mean, that's the dream. That's the thing, isn't it? That's what we're all supposed to be doing.
Blue Harvest brings up a point about the quality control at Hasbro toys now. Of course, we know that it's kind of hitting the dumper right now, especially with those Dungeons and Dragons figures that came recently. I wanted to be invested in that. I loved the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon as a child, and as an adult, those look like the perfect action figures. And then you find out, no, don't get them. They're worse than NECA. So there's that.
I'll say one thing to that, though. Bill, and also as a machine. I don't know what company, or we'll talk about that later. But as a person who makes stuff, who can have bad batches of stuff or whatever, you better believe the next run of those figures are going to be spot on, because everyone just got their asses chewed, and people came down. Right, people came down from other offices and said, "Hey, what's going on? Super John just had a broken figure on his channel." Right, and you better believe the second wave. Right?
Yeah, this first wave has been such a disaster. It may kill the line before we get all of the characters.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Well,
figures. I'm not going to the store and buying those figures because they're going to break.
But again, as a customizer, I'll wait till they go on clearance. I'll buy it knowing it's going to break, knowing that I can
break it anyway.
Hasbro
obviously is hiring the wrong people then, because I worked at a firearms company, a very big one, and stuff happens. You get thousands of parts that aren't hardened right, that nobody knows until that first customer who does know what they're doing says, "Hey man, something's wrong here." And then it gets shipped to my office, and we all look at it and we go, "Oh, what in the world?" Right? But then we know there's a huge thing that says everything between this number and that number needs to be immediately replaced, right? And these are firearms, right? These are 50,000 psi of pressure going off in your hand. This is way more serious. Cars, all this kind of stuff. This is way more serious than what we're talking about. So you're telling me Hasbro can't make a plastic toy for ages 3 to whatever? Come on.
Blue Harvest Toys, God forbid retro blasting gets a broken toy. Oh, Michael French will have a fucking field day with this stuff if he ever got one. And I've been kind of waiting on the sidelines with a fresh batch of popcorn, waiting for a video from retro blasting.
Yeah, he'll tell it like it is in the unvarnished truth. He is not a person you want to get on the wrong side of, because he'll let you know.
Yes. He has a very large box to stand on too.
Yeah. No way says, what boom stick manufacturer were you talking about?
No, I will not. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we all have to know, right? I'm just saying we all have people who raised us, and we all had people we talked to who raised them, and everyone's been saying since the beginning of time, man, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Man, people don't have any pride in their work, and that's all true. So why are you all of a sudden? What's with the surprise? Because you're obviously not listening. Not you guys, obviously. I don't mean you gentlemen, but that's when some people say things. I go, "What in the world?"
JT says Nowak has had a shave and looks lovely. Is it me, or is there to Orson Welles?
Oh, I've been told that. Isn't that wonderful? He was wasn't that a hell of a guy?
Have you ever sold wine before it's time?
Oh yeah.
You need to see the commercial that he was.
I've seen them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Yeah, they kept doing the take over and over again as he got drunk.
Yeah, I play those. I play those to keep my attacks down. Are you kidding me? My episode.
You're
my
not
episodes.
to actually drink the wine when you're making the commercial, Orson.
Orson was something.
Yes.
There's a man who had no qualms about reality or his own ego. You know what I'm saying?
Creative thinker in his own right.
It's interesting how people who are accused of having the biggest egos are really, if you're paying, are like the most egoless people. That's what's, like, yeah, man. We'll never reach a higher plane of enlightenment as a whatever species if we're mad, if we don't understand why Hasbro does what they do.
There's nothing more dangerous to a company than a free thinker.
If you're making toy videos and review videos, always keep breakages in the videos. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It's honest. On this show one Sunday, I opened up an Evil Lynn action figure that I bought a couple of days before because I wanted to customize her and everything. And as soon as I opened the package, her freaking foot broke off, and I'm like, "Did you see that, guys? The foot broke off."
Was it here? Can I pose a question?
Sure.
These new vacuum, which I used to make carbon fiber stock, so I understand what that much. I understand which I also vacuum seal my meat that I take in the field, right? But you know how hard it is to get that stuff out of there. Like, how much of that maybe is breaking actually in that process?
I don't know. I think
because most of us know
broken. This figure arrived already broken, so I'm thinking.
Right. So when's it breaking? It's got to be breaking in that right? It's holy shit.
That or the fact that maybe not enough plastic had been poured down into the mold when they were making it, and it had a weak point up there at the top.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely always a problem with bubbles and stuff, which is why they're supposed to be using the Oh God, I said it earlier. Now I'm having a brain fart.
Well, it all boils down to quality control. If they had quality control in these Chinese factories that are making this crap, then all that would stop. And as far as the D&D figures go, from what I understand, those figures were sent to a factory that they hadn't used before to save a whole bunch of money. Well, you get what you pay for, folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And everything.
Plastic is like steel. It's
labor too.
You can have different qualities of plastic, just like you can have different qualities of steel, all based upon the alloys and how it's forged.
Sure. Sometimes you get a bad batch.
Think that, Bill? I don't know what kind of machine you run. I don't know, like Haas or whatever, but I mean,
a Haas machine. It's
exactly right, because you have a job as a machinist in America. But you think they're running that over there?
Oh no, they're not running.
No, they're running the same shit you and I can buy off Amazon for $300. You know what I mean? Like,
well, as you can hear,
what's that music?
That's the
ducks, man.
It's time to end the show with Feed the Ducks music.
Oh, my bad.
We're getting ready to wrap the show up, folks.
I really appreciate you, gentlemen.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you, and I enjoyed you being here, chat. I enjoyed you guys being here. It's been lovely. I've enjoyed every minute of this. This has been one of the best shows that I have enjoyed doing in a very, very long time. And I'm going to wrap it up right now. I'm going to say good journey to everybody, and we'll see you all next time on Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. Special thanks to these supporters on Patreon. Without your help, these adventures would not be possible. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's adventure, please hit like and subscribe and share the video.